The ships appeared over every capital on the same morning, 63 of them, silent as held breath. No weapons fired, no demands, just a single message broadcast in perfect, accentless English on every frequency humanity had ever used to shout into the dark. We come to offer protection. By noon, the President of the United States sat across a conference table from something that called itself Ambassador Solence, a being of smooth gray skin and two symmetrical features, wrapped in robes that shimmered like oil on water. General Alan Whitfield stood at the President's shoulder, arms crossed, saying nothing, watching everything. Protection from what exactly? The President asked. Solence smiled with a mouth that had clearly practiced smiling. The galaxy is not the peaceful cradle you imagine, Madam President. There are predator species, harvesters. Your world is resource-rich, strategically placed, and utterly undefended. We propose a partnership. Our fleet remains in orbit. In exchange, limited resource access, and Earth joins the coalition as a protected world. Protected? Whitfield repeated flatly. From who? Solence's smile flickered, just a fraction of a second, there and gone. From threats you cannot yet comprehend, General. Try me. There isn't time for a full briefing today. Trust is built in stages. Whitfield said nothing else. But that night, in a windowless room 3 floors below the Pentagon, he said plenty. Dr. Elena Marsh hadn't slept in 31 hours. She didn't need to look up from the spectral data scrolling across her monitor to know Whitfield had entered the room. The temperature of the air seemed to drop 2 degrees whenever he did. Talk to me, he said. Their ship's hull, she said, pointing at a holographic cross-section rotating above the table. Pulled from 3 days of passive scans the aliens didn't know NORAD had been running since hour 1. Composite ceramic metal weave. Good. Solid. But look at the wear patterns. Micrometeorite scarring, thermal stress fractures along the ventral plating, patch welds, hundreds of them, done in at least 4 different styles. Meaning this ship has been in a fight. Multiple fights over years, maybe decades. And it hasn't been to a proper shipyard in a long time. She pulled up another image. This isn't a diplomatic envoy, General. This is a fleet running on fumes. Whitfield's jaw tightened. Running from something. That's my read too. Across the hall, in a room stacked with server racks that hummed like a swarm of trapped hornets, a linguist named Tom Hargrove was doing something the coalition delegation had not anticipated. Actually listening. Not to Solence's carefully rehearsed English, but to the chatter between alien crew members aboard their own shuttle, picked up by a listening device disguised as a commemorative coin gifted during the welcome ceremony. Old trick. Older than the Cold War. Nobody had expected it to still work on a species that could cross the stars. It worked because arrogance is a universal constant. Tom ran the recordings through 3 separate translation matrices built from 6 days of captured coalition transmissions, cross-referenced against every linguistic model humanities intelligence agencies had ever built for exactly this kind of situation, because someone decades ago had been paranoid enough to prepare for first contact going sideways. By 2 a.m., he had a phrase repeated 11 times across 4 hours of chatter. The van will find us here eventually. Better the humans burn first. He printed it, walked it down the hall himself, and set it on the table in front of Whitfield without a word. The second meeting happened 4 days later, in the same room with the same players, except now the President had learned to let Whitfield speak first. We've reviewed your proposal, Whitfield said. We have questions. Of course, Solence said smoothly. Ask anything. Who are the van? The temperature in the room didn't change. But Solence's assistant, a smaller alien standing near the door, went very, very still. I'm not familiar with that term, Solence said. Funny, Whitfield said. Your crew mentions them a lot. Usually right before mentioning us. Solence's composure held, but only just a hairline crack in porcelain. You've been listening to private communications. That's a violation of what? We haven't signed anything. Whitfield leaned forward. Here's what we think happened, Ambassador. The van, whoever they are hunting you. Your fleet's been running for a long time. You found Earth. Resource-rich, strategically placed, and according to your own scans, home to 8 billion people who'd make excellent conscripts, hostages, or a very convenient speed bump. You weren't here to protect us. He paused. You were here to hide behind us. Silence stretched across the table like a wire pulled taut. Then Solence's mask didn't so much crack as simply stop being worn. The practiced diplomatic cadence dropped into something colder, faster, more honest. You have no idea what's coming. The Van harvest entire biospheres. They do not negotiate. They do not spare children or cities or species that thought they had time to prepare. We have been running from them for 11 years. Your world was the first shelter we found with a population dense enough, technologically adjacent enough, to actually stand a chance beside us. We were going to fight with you. You were going to fight behind us, Whitfield said. There's a difference, and you know it, because your own fleet is held together with patch welds and prayer. You didn't come to protect Earth. You came because Earth might be able to protect you. The president finally spoke, quiet but absolutely certain. Then let's talk about that instead. Because that's a conversation we can actually have honestly. Took 11 months. Not months of alien technology raining down like manna. The coalition fleet, it turned out, had precious little to spare that wasn't already jury-rigged into holding formation. What Earth got instead was worse and better. The truth. Real intelligence on the van. Real coordinates. Real desperation, laid bare, from a species that had spent a decade running because they'd never once stood and fought on their own terms. Humanity, it turned out, did not particularly enjoy running. By the time the Van's scout ships entered the outer solar system, they found something the coalition species had apparently never considered. A defense grid built not on borrowed alien tech, but bolted together from 100 nations pooling their own designs in record time, backed by a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself and had, somewhere in there, gotten disturbingly good at war. Railgun platforms disguised as commercial satellites. Nuclear-hardened orbital stations built in shipyards from Texas to Guangdong to Bavaria, working around the clock. And at the center of it, coalition ships, old, scarred, patch-welded, flying wing to wing with human interceptors for the first time in either species' history, because Whitfield had made one demand before signing anything. You fight beside us. Not behind us. Beside us or not at all. The battle over Neptune's orbit lasted 6 hours. It was not won cleanly. 3 coalition ships were lost. 41 human pilots didn't come home. But when the Van's flagship finally broke formation and fled into the dark, Silence stood on the bridge of his own limping cruiser, watching human interceptors escort the retreat out of the system rather than pursue and gloat, and understood something he hadn't expected to learn from a species he'd once considered a hiding place. They hadn't offered to protect Earth. They'd offered Earth a fight worth having, and Earth had simply said yes.